You're listening to the Beats and Bars podcast hosted by BATTL Beats. This podcast is out there to shine a light on the most slept on and underrated rappers and producers.
It's battle, baby.
Yo, what's up? It's BATTL Beats here with a new episode of the Beats and Bars podcast, episode 9. That is right, we've been going for 2 months, straight uploads. We've had some serious talent on there, and for those who don't know, Wire, aka WN, aka Backyard Fitness and stuff on YouTube, was my first guest. So we have got a very special host today. That is right, host, not guest. Wire is the new host for this episode, and he's going to be asking me a bunch of questions. So over to you, Wyatt.
Yeah, we flipped the tables on him. Hello and welcome to the Beats and Bars podcast. So today I'm going to be interviewing my boy, and we're going to be asking him some questions about mixing and mastering and going through plugins and figuring out ways around technical difficulties when it comes to sound engineering and things of that nature. Because we thought it would be fun, but also because these are just questions I have. And if people are like me and they want to increase their knowledge, even if they're just a rapper or something, maybe they can take this and just add it to their arsenal. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Just make them a little bit better of a well-rounded artist.
I don't think rappers need to be producers and audio engineers, but it definitely helps them, and knowing basics helps them record a perfect take, which then when I got a perfect take, it's great. But when I get takes that aren't perfect and have got a few discrepancies or there's a few things wrong with them or whatever, it makes the mixing so much more difficult. So yeah.
And it's just little things like that. I know it's kind of like for a similar reason, I've tried to pick up other instruments and just get a better understanding just as of music in general, just to make me better. Because if you're more, like you said, if you can acknowledge where your issues are or how music is put together, you can do it better. I know that whenever you're making beats and stuff, you kind of have a little bit of a structure that you adhere to as far as breakdowns and how you start a beat. Can you explain your thought process of making beats?
So usually I start off with a really cool melody that starts it off. I rarely start with the drums in. Most of the time I build the drums in. So for the first 8 bars, usually I have the bass melody, and then I will add something else on top of that, like a counter melody or a guitar part, a little bit of another synth or a flute or something. And then sometimes I'll either bring in a percussion loop just to give it more bounce, or I will add the hi-hats and the snare or the claps, and then build it up, maybe add a riser, let it drop for a quarter of a bar, and then bring everything in, 808s, bass, drums, everything. And then I usually have 8 to 16 bars of full drums. And usually halfway through, I'll mix it up with bringing in another melody or just something else to make it sound different. Then I usually drop it down again. It sort of repeats the process. I build it up, and then I just let it ring out, and then I just arrange it that way, just so the beat's different. I like to take hi-hats out of drums in the verse sometimes, because it just gives it a lot of different vibes. It just makes it sound like it's a verse. Because if you was to listen to rock music, it usually starts all in, and then the verse is usually the drums and the bass guitar, and then there's a little bit of an electric on top comes in halfway. So I try and structure it like an actual song, and that's kind of it. I usually go from nothing to everything to kind of half of everything to kind of full, and then sort of nothing, and then I just build it up, and I really take the beat wherever. What I prefer to do is to make a bass beat, send it to a rapper, and then the rapper raps on it, and then I build more around it to make it more interesting. I prefer that, doing it that way, because it's more of a collaboration. It makes the vocals stand out more, and it's just more of a fun experience to make. It's more of a collaboration. Whereas if you just make a beat, send it over or sell it, and someone gets it, raps in it, it's great, but you've kind of just not really been involved. You've made the beat and they've done their own thing with it. But I prefer the collaboration where we go back and forth. I'll add a guitar part or I'll add a synth part, take it out of certain parts where I thought it might work, but it didn't because your vocals are really cool there. And just making the whole thing harmonious and yeah.
And also I was going to say also to some extent, because they are the beats that you're making, you kind of hold them dear, right? Yeah. So like you want to kind of play a part in seeing where that beat goes so that, you know, it's like treated right, you know?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, all of my beats. I mean, there's some beats that I make that I think are a bit rubbish, but everyone doesn't always make good stuff all the time. But there's certain beats that I make, and I'm like, yeah, this is my baby, and it's got to have someone good on it. Otherwise, this beat's just. I don't want to dishonor the beat. No offense to anyone out there, if I make a beat, I put my heart and soul into it. You want the right person on it.
Yeah, you don't want to waste it almost.
No,
you're like not. Yeah. Do you ever listen to a beat like that someone else has made and you're like waiting for a drop, or you're like hearing a build up or something and you're like, all right, this should be the part where something happens, and then nothing happens and you're just like, what are you doing?
Sometimes I listen to a beat and I'm like, yeah, I totally know this beat, what's going to happen. And then I'm like, whoa, this is completely different to what I expected. I'm trying to think. There was a song. It's not a hip hop song, but it's a Billie Eilish song, Bad Guy. And it's great all the way through. And then at the end, it just breaks down into this weird, dirty bass thing. And I'm just like, just totally didn't expect that. And I think there was a Drake beat that I listened to, a Drake track. And it was like just 2 tracks almost in one off his Scorpion album. And that was kind of weird. I did not expect that, but it worked at the same time. So I do analyze music. I more analyze the instruments and the drums more than the lyrics. I guess because I've always been playing guitar and piano and always been just listening and then playing, figuring it out and playing it. And that's what I listen out for, is the instruments, not so much the vocals. So I listen to these reactors and they pull out like a verse. And then I'm just like, I didn't pick that up because I focus more on the music than on the lyrics. So I guess that's just the way that I'm wired. But then I can appreciate good bars at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
I was gonna say with a beat switch up, man, I'm a big fan of whenever a beat starts out one way and then all of a sudden it's like almost a completely different beat. There's been quite a few songs where, I don't know, there's something about it, but the double-edged sword to that, I think, is if one of those beats really outclasses the other beat. So, like, you thought that you were enjoying the song until the other crazy beat hits, and you're like, I thought I was enjoying the song, but I guess I like this part more.
What's that Travis Scott song that happens in? It's like his main one off Astro World. Is it Stargazing?
Sicko Mode?
Yeah, Sicko Mode. And that goes from like one song to another, and I'm like, I was vibing it at the start, and then I'm not vibing it at the end. You know, that was a real shame. But obviously that song just got huge, so it doesn't matter. He doesn't care probably.
Yeah. He's like, nah, it's a masterpiece. But the thing about you making the beats and listening for all the instruments and stuff is probably the more and more that you do it and you're listening for it, now you're not even trying to listen for things. And there's probably things that you would hear that past you wouldn't have heard, you know, things that maybe they just slipped into the beat as something really quiet in the back, and you were able to pick up something that no one else would even have noticed.
Yeah, well, that does happen. And like, I like, because I remember when I was learning guitar, I briefly had guitar lessons, for maybe 6 months. I can't remember exactly how long it was, but he was teaching me, right, listen to a song and then find the root note, and then you can find the key and then work out the guitar parts from there. So okay, cool, I'll do that. So then I just used to listen to like my favorite songs and then just try and pick out all the different melodies and guitar riffs and things like that. And then you start to hear it, and then you it's like you train your ear to hear and to pick these things out. And I haven't got perfect pitch at all. If someone was to play a C, I'd probably be able to figure out that it's a C. But some notes I just can't figure out. But yeah, I just hear things. I hear the music. Just I don't know why. It's just strange, but I just hear the music and I just love it.
I mean, it's got to be the same thing for like people that listen to rap all the time, and they can pick up bars from like faster rappers that maybe the normal ear wouldn't have been able to pick up.
Yeah.
Or like there's a different rhythm or cadence that is landing on maybe not your hi-hat, or it's in between something else in the beat that a normal ear might be like, oh, that sounds like it's off. But it might not be off because they're just hitting a different part of the beat than would be normal.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And like the more you train your ear to listen for these things, the more you can appreciate it as well. Sometimes I listen to fast flows and I'm just like, whoa, that is mental. Didn't always get what you said. Maybe you didn't actually say anything. Maybe you just went blah, blah, blah. But you know, I've definitely got an appreciation for it, and that's great. So,
I know that it will also give you an appreciation for how far you have come, because I go back and I listen and I delete old songs all the time. I'm like, I thought this was great. It turns out I can barely hear myself and I'm off beat. I'm just like, because of how far I've come, so that you can appreciate where you're at now, but you're like, I'm glad nobody was really listening.
Yeah, but I think that's like the beautiful thing of starting out, going independent, telling the world that you're a musician or you're a rapper or you're a beat maker, a producer, whatever. Usually your first stuff is going to be rubbish. Usually, and like that's like the thing. And then, unless you're insanely talented and the first song you make is like sick and just that is it. But usually it's not. And I was talking to Exile in the podcast episode I did with him a couple of weeks ago, and he was basically saying my advice to like rappers starting out or producers starting out is know that your first stuff's going to be trash, but that's fine because you're learning, you're growing on it. And I listened to my first, like I didn't start off producing hip hop. I started producing indie rock and rolls. So acoustic drums, guitars, a little bit of synth. And I started sound engineering for live bands before I even started producing. So I got used to like working with guitars, grand pianos, real drum kits, and raw vocalists. And then, like when I started putting beats out, it was a while before I actually stopped producing rock and roll and then started producing hip hop. It was a while since I did that. And in between, like going from like rock and roll to like making beats, I was making like 80s synth pop stuff, and it was cool. I might revisit that one day, but it was just like 80s synths, like dun 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 dun. It was just like really big synths. It was cool, but that I more and more moved away from that, and then I started to make beats. And the first beats that I put on my beat store, I think they're still there now. I'm probably going to take them down tonight. They were not very good. They were rubbish. But at the time, I was like, these are sick. These are sick. Oh, my God. Playing everyone my beats. And I'm like, yeah, I'm starting out as a producer. And I can just imagine them just thinking, oh, this guy just go nowhere. But now my beats are good. I'd like to think my beats are good. Sometimes I don't think they're good. But I think generally most of the time they're good. But I think I've grown so much in the past like year. I've been making beats now for about probably 2 years, but producing for about 5. So my beats like now are pretty good. I'm really good at mixing now. I'm really good at hearing things and just making good beats. But back then, oh my God, they were bad. But I'm kind of like okay with that because that was my process. And at the end of the day, I had to learn and go through things. I mean, I always say in pretty much most of the podcast episodes that if it wasn't for Legend, my drums would be rubbish. He was like sending me beats with great drums, and I was like, all right, cool. So I then downloaded
I
some cool.
also, I was just gonna say, I also really appreciate Legend played a big part of me and you getting together. To be honest,
Yeah, exactly.
And because Legend was telling me, he was like, man, because he really liked where you were going and the beats you were making, but his style, he felt conflicted a little bit with the beats because he's more of that aggressive, like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
way that he and not to say that it was impossible or anything, but you guys didn't exactly click, and he knew that me and you would click, which was super cool.
He just was like, because I remember I sent him a beat and he rapped on it, but then you had a feature. I can't remember the song, but you were like
I think it.
you were singing on it, and I was like, there's this guy, he's American, crazy guy with a beard, makes funny YouTube videos, and he's singing on this beat. Like, okay, cool, we'll roll with it. And then I was like, and then as I started mixing it, I was like, this is actually really cool. This is sick. And then I was hosting my cipher, and then you was on cipher as well. And then I got your verse, and that was like the first time I heard you like rap properly. And I was like, this verse is really good. It's one of my favorites on the cipher. And then you was like messaging me asking for like beats and how it works and how licensing works and stuff. So I was like, all right, cool. This is how it works. And then you was like, cool. Black Friday. I think it was around Black Friday. No, maybe shortly after. And you were like, yeah, man, I need some beats. So you've got some beats. And then I said, look, listen, I'll mix it all for you, because why not?
Man, it's like the origin story.
Yeah,
it's the origin story.
Yeah, I was like, why not? This guy's cool. He's a good rapper. I'll offer to mix his stuff, because you never know when you say that to someone, they might actually already have a producer who mixes the stuff, or they may do it themselves. So I was just like, I'll mix your stuff for you. And then we ended up just totally collaborating on the Rapper Meditation EP, and it was great. And then since then, we've just almost become like best mates over the course of a year, which is cool. So shout out to Legend.
Yeah, shout out Legend, the friendliest troll of them all.
Yeah, I think I'm actually interviewing him on Friday for this podcast. He's been like, out of like you and him and 10K, like you three are the guys that I wanted to interview the most, but Legend's been super busy, so I haven't been able to interview him. But I think this Friday I'm going to be able to, so that's going to be a good episode. So it's going to be good. But yes,
and people are. I was going to say people are going to get to see the difference between Legend's talking voice and Legend's rapping voice.
Yeah, definitely. But I think
chilling vibing, smoking, riding.
Yeah, Legend sounds like he's whispering when he raps sometimes.
I love it
in a good way. But
he doesn't sound like anybody else.
No, that's like he was like the first rapper that I really like. Was like, yeah, this guy's sick. Like this guy is insane, and how the hell does nobody know who he is? Like,
I still think that.
Yeah, like how the hell does nobody know who? And it's rare that I think about that about you as well. Like how the hell does not many more people know about his music? But it's just a journey about growing, and like I got friends who released they're sort of friends of friends. I've known them for a long time. They released a song that was like #1 last year. Do you know the song? Da, 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 da. It's called Piece of Your Heart. It was massive in the UK. Maybe not so much in America. I don't know. But those guys are like really like blowing up overnight. And those guys are producing like house pop music, and it's great to see them. But they've been grinding out like underground, doing music for a long time, like six years or something, and then they've finally like had a song that popped off. So for me, I've been producing for like 5 years, but I've been taking it seriously for about 2 years, so that I'm totally fine with it taking however long it takes. And you know what? If it never happens, I've had fun along the way. Do you know what I mean? So,
Hell yeah. And that's the thing too. People will see. That's funny. Your water bottle was just a part of the background. Look, like it just disappears into the background. But that's the thing about it though, is that you see these people that quote unquote blow up overnight, but really, how long have they been grinding, doing stuff before you knew who they were? The only reason that it seems like it's overnight now is because you know who they are and you didn't know who they were before. But they may have been, pumping out their beats to try to make rent. They could have been, just trying to rap and do features and put their music out there as much as possible for how many ever years, just so someone will like something that they do and then share it and then start that avalanche and then have something go viral.
Definitely. It's so true. And that's like the one thing that I want to stress to people is, like, it was Christmas last year, so not the one just gone, but the one before. I said to myself, I'd really like to be full-time on music by the next Christmas. So obviously that is 7 months ago, and I'm not anywhere near being able to do music full-time yet. And when I think about it, it's like, oh, maybe I didn't try hard enough, or maybe maybe there was something I missed. But realistically, saying, oh yeah, I think in a year's time I'm going to be full-time for music is a really good goal to have, and people should strive for that. But I realised, you know what, maybe a year is actually too soon. So maybe I'm just going to go hard and just become the best producer ever. And then hopefully...
Two things you said there is the quickness of it all, but setting a goal like that is going to keep you motivated, because you're like, oh man, I gave myself this amount of time. So that would probably motivate you and give you a kick in the butt to be more consistent on things, because we all know that consistency is king.
Definitely.
And then what was the other thing you just said before that? You talked about
getting better.
Music. Yeah. Definitely getting better, but I had a point about something you were saying, but continue. You said
maybe
you're not there to do
maybe it'll come back. Yeah, so I mean that goal was something that I needed to set, because it's like me saying, this is my dreams, this is what I want to happen in my life. I want to be able to provide for my wife and, pay the bills with music money. That would be the dream, like just to be, to become financially free from making music. I'd love that. But sometimes it just takes longer, and that is just, for me, I didn't let that defeat me at Christmas time when I was like, I should really be making music full time. This is what I want to do. But at the same time, me actually still having my 9 to 5, and I've got a good 9 to 5 job, pays me well. It means that we can save up for a house. It means that we can get a good mortgage. It means that we can enjoy nice things without, being snobby, without, being up ourselves, but we can enjoy nice stuff. And yeah, exactly. And if I was to quit my job, we wouldn't be able to get a mortgage, because I don't know how it works in America, but in England, if you're self-employed, you need to have 2 years of good, solid income as a self-employed person. So then they can take an average of what your income is, and then the bank will lend you money for a mortgage. Whereas here, that's not how it works. If you've got 6 months of good wages, but the other year and a half is bad, they wouldn't give you one. So for the time being, until we have a house, it's not really a question of me being able to quit my job, which I don't want to do particularly right now. I like my job, so if my boss is listening, love my job, by the way, it's great. But you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you asked me what's the dream. Yeah, it's making music. But there's so many little factors in my life that mean that I have to keep my job, and I'm cool with that because I enjoy it, and that's fine, and I'm all right with that. But it's the time that people need to get good at the craft. It's the whole 10,000 hours thing. Have I put 10,000 hours making beats, producing records? Probably
Oh,
not.
I remembered.
Okay.
It is because you were saying, have I worked hard enough? Have I put in enough work? You reminded me with the 10,000 hours. We also, not only are we going to be like one of our sources of motivation, we're going to be our hardest critics. So it's kind of the same thing, you know. I don't realize until I look at how hard I'm working on something compared to like someone that's like sitting still doing nothing. But I can do like what would be a week's worth of work for them and still feel like I've done nothing. So we're our own worst critics in that you're like, damn, like me, I'm 6 days behind on a YouTube video. I haven't posted a video in 6 days. And I know that isn't like crazy long time, but I'm just over here like, dang, bro, you couldn't find some time out of your day to record a reaction and edit it and put it up on one of those days. Me and you both know you don't want to go longer than 3 days, and now you're sitting here kicking yourself. But that's what I was saying, the criticisms. But that could be like a good and bad thing as well, because you're keeping yourself in check, but you also don't want to be too hard on yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing. Like, I think it took some maturity in me to realize this is actually going to be a long-term thing. This isn't just going to happen overnight. As good as I am, or as talented as I believe I am, this is going to be a long, long stretch. And like I think God takes us through journeys that's going to make us like learn things along the way. And I definitely believe that I'm on this journey to reach my goals and dreams, but I'm on this journey and I'm on this path and I'm learning things along the way that's going to shape me and make me grow as a person. And I've come to realize that that's all right. It doesn't all happen overnight or in a year. You know, it takes its time, and that's fine. But
yeah, you just have to be willing to put in the work. Is just the main thing. Don't let the fact that, well, this is going to take too long, you accepting that, hey, this is going to take however long it needs to take and I'm going to get it done is like a better way to look at it, because some are like, you know, they're, oh man, well, I don't know that I can, you know, that's a lot of time to devote. Well, if you're thinking like that, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And like, as much as I'm like, yeah, this is going to take as long as it takes, I'm like, well, I'm actually enjoying it as I'm doing it. So it's not like I mean, don't get me wrong. Some days I'm like, I'm just tired and I don't have motivation. But you know what I mean? Like most of the time, it's like I'm going to sit, I'm going to make beats. I'm in like my flow. I call it my creative flow, and I'm always like, and I prefer to be on my own. So I'm always like kicking the wife out, saying, "Just you're ruining my creative flow." Just I don't know why.
Hey, this is my vibe. You need to take your vibe in there for a little bit.
It's nothing against her or anything like that. It's just, you know, when you're in the flow, I'm just zoned in, and distractions. Not that she's a distraction, but I just like to be in the flow, and I enjoy that, and that's why I'm happy, and that's where I'm in my little zone. So I just enjoy it. So, and even if it never happened, even if I never become a full-time music producer, I'm actually buzzing, loving it. So, like, that's cool as well. So, for anyone listening, if you're enjoying it, if you're doing music and you're not enjoying it, why are you doing it? Do something else. You know, do something you enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with music, which, to be honest, let's think about it, is a very hard area to get into. If you're doing it because you feel like anything besides happy, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. But also, if you're doing it and you're having a good time, the time's gonna fly by. So when and if you do make it, you're like, oh, well, I was having a good time anyway. What I was gonna say is you've done a really good job of juggling your plates you know what I'm saying, doing your
Mm-hmm.
your job, but then also finding your time to put in your videos and make your beats. And
Yeah.
I feel like organizing your time efficiently is also a big key. Like if I had a, a list, a top 10 things Wyatt thinks he need to be successful, I think
Mm-hmm.
goal oriented, consistency, and organization of one's time would be like definitely on the list.
Definitely, definitely. I think sometimes when you organize like time to do something, and you know that's the time you've got to do it, you actually are creative and you're just in the flow. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
if you've got all day to record a video or do this or do that, you might not be as good because you're like, right, I've got 3 hours. I'm going to smash this out. I'm going to make it awesome. I've got 3 hours. Whereas if you've got 10 hours, you're like, oh, take my time with it, and it might not be as good. So when you structure time in, like today, I went on Instagram Live at 7, and I was like, I've got an hour. I'm going to make a really awesome beat, and I've got that
Mm-hmm.
hour, and it needs to be good. Otherwise, I'm going to go crazy. So I made a really cool
Mm-hmm.
beat in that time, and I think it was about 30 minutes that I had to like, sort of it all there, and I was just messing around with it for another 15 minutes. But it's like I had that structured time, and I made a really great beat, and it was just really cool. I really enjoyed it, and I was like,
Yeah.
because I haven't made a beat in a few days, probably like 2 days, because I've just been busy
Mm-hmm.
with life and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
it was just nice to just get in that flow, and it just reminds me, yeah, this is what I love doing. This is where I'm. This is my happy place. This is what I love doing, and if I could just sit in a studio for the rest of my life, grow a family and live by a lake and have a music producer studio in a van, I'm happy. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, bro, yeah,
Absolutely.
100%. I look, my my goal in life would to literally, because I'm a very rustic individual, I would like to have a cabin in the woods, but also still have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
want to be able, I want to be able to do my YouTube, and I would want to be able to record music, but also I want to be in a cabin by the woods where I could sit on the porch if I want to and go fishing if I want to.
Mhm,
I also have this idea of
mhm,
a gym, right? A gym, but it would
mhm,
be all wood, like that I cut from like trees and stuff. So it'd be an
mhm.
all wood gym.
Nice.
That
Mm,
Hey, well that's just you know how you put your little like, oh man, that'd be perfect
yeah, yeah.
idea out there.
Well, my one of my dreams is obviously I want to have a nice studio in my home. When we buy a home, I'm gonna build a really sick studio. But one dream that I just can't stop thinking about and googling and looking at is converting a van into a camper van. Um,
Hmm.
because I just want to. That'd be at work. I drive a van sometimes, and it's like the best feeling ever. I just love driving a van, and I've just
Hmm.
seen people convert vans, and they're just super cool. And I want to convert a van into like a camper van, but also in a music studio. So it'll have a
Yeah.
it'll have a minimal setup. So it'll have two monitors, an audio interface, a MIDI keyboard, and a guitar. And you know, the bed will be at the back of the van as like a horseshoe shape, and you sit there, and there'll be a table, and you make your beats and whatever. You get a microphone there, you get rappers in, you travel around the country. You're like, oh, I'm down in London this weekend. Any good rappers out there? They sit in the van. We drive off somewhere cool, cook some lunch, have a few beers. We're making beats in the van, and it's sick. Um, and then obviously the couch area turns into a bed. Then I'll obviously sleep. Go on holidays with a missus. Maybe one day we'll drive to France, pull up by the beach. We'll go have a walk on the beach, have an ice cream, have some fish and chips, and then afterwards come back to the van. You've got the view of the beach, the ocean. I'm there just drumming away, making beats. It'd be sick. Like
Oh yeah.
that is what I want to do. So hopefully the day when I am making music full time, I'm dreaming that it's like enough for me to provide so she doesn't have to work. So I can just be a provider, and and then we can just drive wherever we want, and I can make music wherever I want because it's in the van, and it would just,
And if you want, you can just like, a rapper's like, well, yeah, I can't really go nowhere right now. You're like, don't worry, here I
I'll
come.
come
I'm
to
bringing the
you.
studio. I'm bringing the studio to you.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna have like a really good mic, and I'll get like, I'm gonna invest in a really good mic because then you get a good take. I'm gonna like soundproof the van. It's gonna be really cool. It's gonna have like a nice gas cooker on the side, and it's gonna be sick.
Yeah.
So eventually one day that'll happen, and that'll materialize hopefully. But yeah.
Hey, you keep it envisioned, and sooner. Have you ever watched Steve-O's podcast?
Yeah, I haven't. I've not heard his podcast, but I've seen his YouTube video where he goes surfing and he does a van tour. Have you seen it?
Okay. Oh, yeah, well, he has a podcast called Steve-O's Wild Ride, and he has a van. He has a van that he literally, he has like 3 microphones, right? And there's one microphone to the guy that drives the van or whatever. And then there's his co-host, and then there's him, and then whoever he has in there.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever you were talking about your studio van, I was like, oh, and you could do your podcast in the van if you wanted to.
Exactly. That would be sweet. That would be sweet. So that is one of the dreams that I have. And that would just be awesome. That would just be amazing. And I reckon I could do it on the cheap, but make it good. But I'm talking that's a few years down the line because we need to buy a house first. That is the most important thing. But yeah,
you got to get that house so that whenever all this blows over, I can fly out and see you guys.
Yeah, and we can make an album or something.
Yeah, that's what's gonna happen. They're like, how long are you gonna be staying in
until
overseas?
we're done.
I'm like, until I'm done. So I guess just leave this flight open-ended, boy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that'd be good. But shall we talk a little bit about mixing and what it's...
Yes. You know how we do. We went off on a little bit of a tangent, but it's still focused around your future and your dreams and like what you got.
I'm the host getting interviewed, and that is just the way the Beats and Bars podcast goes.
Okay, so you even talked about getting a really nice microphone so that you would never have a bad take.
You still get a bad take, but the quality would be good.
Mm-hmm. Got you. Yeah. So it's easier to work around. Is it not as muddled together? Is that what you would mean? Yeah,
it would just sound crisper. It would just sound better. Yeah, it wouldn't sound muffled. It wouldn't sound
in getting recordings from several different rappers, what would you say are some of the biggest problems that you have to deal with when getting a vocal recording from somebody?
Sometimes when the vocals come too loud, it's harder to compress and make it sound good. But usually it's when there's background noise, and that means that's probably because the room they're in isn't treated. That is probably because their headphone volume is maybe too loud, and they don't have closed back headphones, which are really important. So these headphones here, these are open back headphones, so you can't see them, but as you can see, sound gets in. Sound can come in there, and sound can come out. Whereas you need closed back headphones for recording. So these are great for mixing, but closed back headphones are good for recording. So then no sound comes out. So when you are stood next to a mic like this, your volume out your ears isn't going to bleed into the mic, and that is really frustrating sometimes. And I mean, most of the time it's hidden in the beat or whatever, but sometimes it's really bad. So background noise and bleed from the headphones is a killer. It makes it harder to mix.
That'll be things like fans, AC,
computer fans,
the bleed that you were talking about. And if the room's untreated, you're probably getting unnecessary reverb, right? That would affect you mixing it.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I know you've done a really good job of dampening your room as well, and that just makes the whole lot of difference in the mix, um,
We'll just
because you get a solid vocal take. Yeah, exactly. So that's really good what you've
yeah.
done there. And a lot of people make the mistake that like the pads that absorb the sound,
Ah.
or the booths, oh dear, need to be behind the
Mm-hmm.
mic. But a lot of the time, the sound goes
Mm-hmm.
into the mic and then
Mm-hmm.
goes around the room and then comes back into the mic again. So you actually need to have
Mm-hmm.
acoustic treatment behind you as well as
Mm-hmm.
behind, to the sides as well. So the whole area needs to be treated. So the sound will
Yeah.
come out of your mouth, go into the mic, and then the rest of it will drop dead. But then if it does bounce, it has the
Yeah.
sides and the back to disappear, to
Mm-hmm.
then go back in. And that's really
Yeah.
important, having good treaty room. And if you can't afford to buy acoustic foam,
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if this would work, but like if you were sat on your bed, you had your mic, you put your covers over, you put your pillows there, and that would be, I was imagining that would be pretty sick as a dampener, because you're
My
under your
my
cover.
my only question, the things that would make that difficult for the rapper and the problems I think I would see with the sound, right, would be because you do want as much sound dampening, to catch the reverb and everything, but there can be too much too, though, right?
Hmm.
That'll kind of muddy the sound of the recording.
Sometimes when the room's too dead, there's not much life in the take. But I mean, good
Mm-hmm.
tips is like having a bookshelf, having a couch, having carpets, having a bed, things like that are
Mm-hmm.
just thick stuff. That really helps
Mm-hmm.
with the vocal take. And I definitely recommend, if rappers are listening and don't have that and are just rapping a room,
Mm-hmm.
consider just doing that, because it'll be the big difference of your vocal sounding rubbish and your vocal sounding good. Because when I
Mm-hmm.
come to mix it, if your vocal take is bad, there isn't much you can do. You end up compromising by rolling off too much of the high end because you're trying to get rid of the room noise,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that, and it isn't good. So good treatment is it.
The also too, right? It's like if they make it's you said there's almost nothing you can do because you're trying to fix a problem that is more like putting a band-aid on it. You might as well just get a new take.
Hmm.
Is like whenever you get clipping
Yeah,
and your vocals go past the bar or whatever, and you can't ever really bring that back because it hasn't registered,
yeah, and I
right?
mean, don't get me wrong. There's plugins. I have a plugin called Declip. Declick.
Uh-huh.
It's the Isotope RX7 plugin, and that is really good at
Mm-hmm.
getting rid of background noise, getting rid of the clip and the clicks and stuff like that. But it isn't. It's better to have a perfect take. Do you know what I mean? Better to have
Yeah.
a good take, a good treated room, and good gain staging. Because when you plug your mic into an audio interface, you want to make sure that your highest ever volume is kind of just the start of the orange.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're good. If it's going more of like a darker orange into the red, that's bad. So just below the
Mm-hmm.
orange, green, orange, that's good if you're going for your high bits. And then when it's compressed and when it's mixed, you can bring it out, because basically compression takes the highest volume, squashes it, and makes the whole track that arguably like a similar volume, and it brings up the lower and squashes the higher ones. So if you've just
I
got
could
a
see where that
crazy,
would be a problem, like you were
yeah,
saying, if someone sends you a take that that is too loud because now it's compressing everything, and that is just going to mess up the balance of the whole track, huh?
yeah, sometimes, and usually, like, I'm not afraid to say to a rapper, you need to redo this, or you need to consider this or consider that, because I care about the track and about them, and I want the best music to be made. And if the vocal takes out
Mm-hmm.
up to par, then just try again. I've
Mm-hmm.
told people before, you're off beat, so why don't you try this? Instead of trying to rap 16 bars at once, rap 4 bars, stop the take, punch in on another track, and then maybe rap like the last word, and then you back in, and then you can send me that, and then I can blend it all in together so it sounds like one perfect take, and you're on beat the whole time. Whereas sometimes if you're going 16 bars and there's like one word that's off, or it's better just to do punch-ins, because all the good rappers, all the professional rappers are punching in as well. So that's what that is another tip that I would say.
The only artist I've ever heard really that does not do any punch-ins at all is Jack White.
Right.
Jack White, he literally Jack Black went and like they made a song together, and Jack Black came out and he was like, "Yeah, we had to get it all right the first one time." He said whenever he usually does is the Tenacious D stuff. I don't know, Jack Black, Tenacious D?
Yeah.
He said whenever they do that, he's like, you can record something, put it in, record something, put it in. He said, Jack White, nah, we had to get it all right. We had to get it all right.
Yeah, and like back in the day, man, like before laptops and stuff, you literally had to record it perfect. That is what you had to do. You had to record it perfect because you couldn't just cut and stick or edit or this and that. You recorded your take and that was it. If it was out of time, you had to do it again and again and again until you had the perfect take. That's how it was back in the day. Now you could play like 4 notes on your guitar and make a cool riff by editing it, like you could. But to get like a proper good take, nothing beats it because there's life in the music. If you're slicing it up and editing it, sometimes there's not as much life. But if you're playing the full part like with no mistakes, it's perfect. It's great.
Yeah, for sure. What you were talking about plugins a little while ago. Like, what do you look for whenever you're looking for like a good, and what makes the plugins worth the money? Because you're gonna like buy a pack probably that has stuff in them. Like,
yeah, well, so for me, my vocal chain. So for any rappers listening, this is a good thing to do. You get your vocals, you give it a soft compression just to level it out a bit, and then usually I add an EQ where I put a high pass filter on. So you take the low end and you roll it up to about 100, like that, and then usually I boost the high end just to bring out like the sibilance, and then I put a de-esser on it to get rid of the like S sounds, that you don't want them. So then de-esser will just demolish them and get rid of them and make the vocal sound really smooth. And then I'll add like another compressor, another EQ, and then I'll like boost it around the mids, or just find out where the sweet spot is and then boost it. And sometimes where I boost it, sometimes I like dip, like just sort of say I boost at like 1.5k, I might like do a slight dip at like 2k and then 1k, just so it's like, if it looks like, if that's the boost there, I'd maybe do like that and then just like a little cut. Sometimes it just really depends. You want to sweep the vocals and take out anything nasty as well. But once you've done that, so then EQ, then you can compress it again to bring it out even more. Then you can add like reverb and delay, auto-tune if you want. If you're going to add distortion to your vocals, add it first. That's just always something I've done. I don't know why. It just makes it sound better. Because by the time it's got through the chain, it sounds kind of smooth. But the plugins that I use to mix is the Slate Digital plugins. They're the best, in my opinion. They're modeled after analog consoles. And if you were to put them side by side, it would be barely recognizable of what's digital and what's analog. So I'm really happy with that. It's a subscription, so it's like it's $10 for 6 months of a month, or it's after the 6 months it then becomes $15 a month. It's definitely worth it, because since I got those, my mixes just got better, and the analog emulated EQs and compressors and things, and just the whole package is just sick. So I'm really glad I got that, if I'm being honest, because my mixing just got way better. That's what I use. And obviously, Waves plugins are good as well. There's Universal Audio plugins. The plugins in your DAW will be good as well. The stock plugins will be great. You know, all you need is compression, EQ, de-esser, and a reverb and a delay if you want, and then you know you'll get a good take. But upping your game by getting some Slate Digital plugins or Waves plugins, they're just insane plugins. They're great.
Is it better to get the vocals as close to ready before you add the, like you said, like the delay and the auto tune and stuff like that?
Yeah, you want to have them. Sometimes you might actually add the auto tune first to get like the sound you want, and then you can do more mixing on it. So I would always put auto tune first, actually. But then before you put a reverb and a delay on, you do want to have it sort of mix ready, and then you add this like the source at the end with the reverb and delay, if you know what I mean. Usually that's what I do. But I mean, I've got like, I know exactly how to mix your vocals perfect. So I've got kind of like just this chain that I use, and then usually by the time I've done that, it sounds great. And then I sprinkle on the reverb. I really, you should actually use buses and bus out your reverbs and delays. And a cool trick is on your reverb, if you have a bus send for your reverb, so it's not on the main channel, but you send the audio to another bus channel, you have your reverb on that bus channel. Usually what I do is I put the reverb on, and then I add an EQ, and I take the lows and highs out, so it's just sort of the mids, and it cleans up the reverb really nice. And then you can compress it as well if you want, sidechain it to something. But that's getting super more technical. Sometimes I do that. I usually EQ my reverbs on the bus, and then I do the same with the delays, because then you don't want any nasty low-end reverb coming through, or low-end, high-end, nasty high-end reverb. So that's what I do usually.
You ever have a take that you were working on, and you went through your chain, and you were putting all your edits on it, and then you realized that you might have done too much, so you had to like
sometimes. Yeah, sometimes I usually have I have a few presets that I use that I think will sound good on that vocal. So you load it up, and sometimes it's like, oh yeah, no, bad idea. So you like just turn all the plugins off. You start on the top one, and you know, right, okay, I'm going to come, you know, and you just work through them one by one. Sometimes take some away if you need, or add different ones, or it's just an experiment, really. I have in my head how I think it should, what should help it make sound good, but it is experimentation at the end of the day.
Process of elimination, almost figure out what's going to work, and not every take and not every voice is going to work with the same, you know, edit and whatnot. So
yeah, exactly.
That makes
exactly, and that's what I do sometimes. So it's about just experimenting and seeing what's cool. Try new things as well. That's always fun. Trying a different delay, trying a different reverb, trying a different compressor. That's definitely fun as well. So I always do that too.
And then I mean, that is part of the benefit of working with like a producer rapper relationship, where if you go back and forth enough, now you already know what the take's probably going to sound like, or what his vocals or her vocals is going to sound like, and then you already have an idea beforehand, so you already know the way it's going to sound, and then vice versa. The rapper has an idea of like, okay, he's going to send this to me, and then you can go back and forth, like you said, more of a collaborative effort, you know.
Definitely, and that's the fun in it. That is definitely the fun in it. And I enjoy mixing vocals. I'd like to mix for more people as well. It's definitely something that I want to do. But that's kind of how I mix and stuff. Do you know what's crazy? We've been going for about an hour, and it doesn't feel like that, does it?
Nah, not at all. I will say this though, we will cut it soon, just because my phone battery is a little low. You know, it makes sense we've been on for an hour, because it did warn me. It was like you're pretty low, but I feel like we covered a lot, because we talked about the hopes, the dreams, the processes of mixing, just chatting stuff and music. You know.
Yeah.
I will say this. Adverts, Torch, Lyft, Mate. These were me and Mrs. Wyatt were talking, And I was just thinking, I started calling things just the way you would call them.
Right.
I was like,
yeah.
these dang adverts, they keep popping up on us.
You know, I'm rubbing off on you. And when you guys come and visit us in York, we will indoctrinate you in the British culture.
Oh man!
And likewise, when we come to Houston.
Yeah, whenever you come to H-Town, you're gonna leave and you're gonna be like, "Hey, we holding it down."
Mm-hmm.
That's how we speak over here. Down is Don. Okay. So just so you know that.
By the way, you'll be happy. I had smoked brisket today.
Oh, you made there's a bunch of Texans hearts right now that just kind of grew 2 sizes. Mm-hmm. They said, "Oh, someone had brisket." they don't know why they're happy right now, but I know why they're happy.
It's just like a shooting star went over the sky, and it's like they just know someone had brisket, and we could.
Oh yeah, a tear goes down down the cheek. Man, I bet you they had chicken wings too.
Yeah, there's a side order, definitely.
But I how do you do your outro? Do you do a thing? What do you say?
No, I usually just say I don't know. I just usually say, "All right, nice one, thank you," and then go.
You just say "nice one, thank you." That's your outro.
I don't know. I usually just say thanks for coming on. It's been great having you on. Go check out the links in the description.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Look, well, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you for coming. Check the links in the description. In my outro for my videos, you know, I do this. I go, well, if you liked it, leave a like. If you disliked it, leave a dislike. I say if you like that or this or any of this, leave a like. If you dislike that or this, or if you hate me, leave a dislike. And until next time, this has been Beats and Bars.
This is the Beats and Bars podcast, where I've been the guest on my own show. This is great.
Yeah, well, we had to learn, the origin of the one behind the podcast.
Sometimes what we're going to do is, for everyone listening still, if you're still here, hanging on.
Yeah.
Wyatt will be a recurring guest on the podcast. So, yes, enjoy. Take care, guys. Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Beats and Bars podcast. I'm your host, Battle Beats. See you next week.
It's Battle.